welcome to Liturgical Shenanigans, a Wayfolk Arts podcast, with your hosts, Hannah,
Phil,
Jackson,
and Maddie. Hey!
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show.
Hello.
Welcome back to Liturgical Shenanigans. Thank you all for tuning back in.
happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month.
Oh my gosh!
Here we are. Ye old June.
I'm so proud to be gay.
Yeah, and we're continuing into this month with our Psalms of Ascent series, and the translator and first writer for this psalm was Phil.
Yeah. So this month we settled on working with Psalm 133, which is a very friendly psalm. I thought it might have some ties to Pride Month, and I think we might talk about some of that today. So that'll be neat. Should we just get into it with a reading?
I think so.
So we'd invite you, wherever you are right now, to get yourself into a posture to receive. If you're driving, be safe. But otherwise, go ahead and take a moment to make yourself comfortable. Open up your ears and your mind and your heart. Take a breath and receive these words from Psalm 133. A song of ascent of David. Look, how good and how sweet for the children of God to live in unified community. Like good oil pouring on the head, flowing down the beard, Aaron's beard, flowing down into his robes. Like the runoff of snow-capped Mount Hermon, gushing over the mountains of Zion, because it was there that the Lord declared the blessing, life to the whole world. And for a response piece, we have a work in progress. Could be a poem, could be lyrics. Stay tuned. But we're titling it now Paradise. Paradise, a family, bone of bone and flesh of flesh, until innocent eyes linger on a what if. It looks good. It looks sweet, but curdles on the tongue like shame, staining eyes with hunger and fear. Generations and nations, empires and economies chewing their way through the many made to be one. Not enough, never enough, tongues that wound and hands that steal, hardened hearts feasting on death. But what if the blessing of love, life to the whole world, swallowed shame, made things new? Hands that help and tongues that heal, tables and cups and hearts overflowing, one people, one world. Behold, it is good. Behold, it is sweet. A family. Paradise.
There's so much good. Are they all adjectives? There's so many good words. Gushing, curdles, chewing. Hold on, there was another one I liked. Maybe I made it up. I don't. But you used a lot of really good words. I don't hear gushing enough.
I agree. This this feels so poetic and sort of like mystic adjacent, but also sort of Hafiz like. And it's
Should probably break that one down.
It's lovely.
Yeah, what is a fees?
Hafiz is a poet who
Is a
writes
mystic
sort
poet.
of mystic
Oh,
poet who
sure,
writes
sure.
like kind of oftentimes love poetry,
Yeah.
but oftentimes sort of like mystic
Yeah.
thought. But I found myself much like I do when I read Hafiz going like, whoa, wait. And I like
What's going
go
on?
back and like bask in it some more. So
It's a struggle that I've had when I try to write non-prose, right? So you'll often see blogs come from me because I don't overthink as much in prose. But my spouse sonnet is very poetic, very very into poetry, which is fun with a name. But she often criticizes, gives gentle support, challenges that like I feel the need to turn poetry into puzzles or like overthink it or try to over symbolize. And I did get caught up in some of that here, but I hope not too much.
No, I liked all the images you used. And okay, perhaps it's been a minute since I've been in this psalm. I would really love for you to explain the connection. Do you know what I'm...
Why I went to Genesis 3?
Yeah.
I would love to talk about that.
Yes.
Yeah. So like it's so fun because in the first verse we get the how good and pleasant usually is the translation. That word can be sweet. It can be there's a lot of different things folks choose. I really liked sweet.
Yeah, I do too.
Good is tov. It's our favorite good word. But in that made me wonder as I was thinking good and pleasant. Like she notices that the fruit, is good and pleasant. And I went back and looked, and it is both tov, but there are different words translated pleasant. But still, that connection caught me, and it was this idea of like there was a community, and what in this story that is sort of an origin story of shame, an origin story of division. What tempts into that story is something that looks good and looks sweet, and ultimately results in something that is not. And a lot of times I think what we get pulled into what looks good and what looks sweet, and it causes us to ignore our communities, ignore each other, ignore our own needs in pursuit of that. And so I really wanted to, that's what I got pulled into. And I'm like, if I'm going to do something creative with this, I want to get into that contrast of what we think we want, of what we think is good and sweet. And this psalm just starts from we're on our way to gather as a family, in Jerusalem, these Psalms of Ascent. And it's just noticing this is what is good and this is what is sweet. Yeah. And then this super, sensual at least, image of just oil gushing of that's, I wanted to put gushing there, but that wasn't quite right because there's a downward motion. I'm sorry. It was there was definitely a falling or running or flowing.
Oh, sure.
Gushing I used later. I did use it for the Mount Herman.
You did.
Right? Gushing over. Yeah.
You did.
So there you go. And I being me, I tend to add things that aren't there a little bit like I did last time. Like, so for instance, it just says the word for Herman, not even Mount, right?
Sure.
Like the runoff of Herman. And so that means very little probably to most of us.
Yeah.
And so this idea that it is, as far as northern Palestine, kind of the biggest of that range, the most snowy capped, the one that would have the most runoff.
Yeah.
And so to kind of put that image in there for us to know, it's like the big snow-capped mountains runoff flooding the place of promises, So I wanted to play with that.
It also, the juxtaposition, of lost paradise, and then this image of look what paradise is still possible even outside of the garden is really, was juxtaposition the correct word?
I think so.
Yeah.
Is really lovely, and it's a powerful reminder of like because we've ruined so much of community today. I feel like it's especially true right now in the political climate and season we're in. And there is still the potential and just the reality that harmony exists in some pockets. And basking in the beauty of that is something we can make time for and get to make time for still.
Well,
and it's not lost. Like paradise isn't lost. We're not banished from just because we don't have access to the place, we're not banished from the feeling.
Well, I'd say from the reality, right? Like, because I would say that's the gospel. right?
That's the gospel truth.
But yeah, the whole idea of, okay, we've bought into this, we're all tangled up in this, and then we're invited into this community, into this kingdom,
Yeah.
that turns that distraction seeking upside down, and makes that the point again. And so that's why I was kind of playing with the blessing at the end, which I translated as life to the whole world. It's that delightful ha'olam word, right? So you might see like life eternal or that sort of thing.
The universe.
Right. But given how this psalm starts, and it's about us coming together, right? It is when brothers, but that's also in a language where that would just mean like siblings. But I think if I said siblings in English, you would think people who are related to each other that share biological parents.
Right.
Sure.
So I don't think that word carries. I don't think we have a good word, and that's where I went with children of God, which is not there. But this idea, like all of the people who do share a parent, which is humankind. But I also thought humankind was too much of a stretch. So, but that idea that it's how good and sweet it is for that gathering to happen. Of course, then the end, the blessing is life to all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then flowing out of that into the piece, life to the whole world, like also the garden and also all of creation,
Right.
was affected in that. So I love that the whole world is kind of welcomed into this blessing, which is appropriate for the kind of nature imagery analogy of the snow-capped Mount Hermon, which is, I love that image too, because that's such a reversal of like what pop culture sort of like, not pop culture, what many it's not pop culture at all actually. What many visual representations of Mount Hermon is like this desert mountain, this dry barren desert mountain where bushes burn, and it's so interesting to think about it as like a snow-capped mountain that has the blessing of God as
Because
like this rushing river.
we're not Horeb or Sinai, right? We're up in northern Israel here. Would there be Syro something or other? It would have been called mountain range back then. But yeah, it's like against Lebanon, that area.
Yeah.
And it's very not that, well, at least not always, and not now even, I think, that deserty kind of setting. Yeah, I would agree.
And your piece too makes like that community living almost feel like an act of defiance. Particularly the turning but what if the blessing of love, life to the whole world, swallowed shame, made things new. That feels like, all this is happening, and here we are standing together anyways and basking in the beauty and glory of that. Ugh. And I love living in defiance. So
Well, and that's fun. Like, how do we read the Psalms, right? And if we let ourselves play with a little bit of prophetic fun, if we're saying that the mountains of Zion, if Jerusalem was the place where the Lord declared the blessing, life to the whole world, this song was being sung long before Christ stepped into Jerusalem. But if we're thinking about the work of Christ as what announces that blessing, or at least repeats it, or at least completes it, or however you want to think of it that way from a kind of Christian theological standpoint,
Renews it.
then it is that like Jesus submitting to all of this that we're talking about from the Genesis 3 brokenness, submitting to that, and it doesn't overcome, and love and community wins in the resurrection. And people don't go out in fear of the what ifs anymore. It's the life to the whole world and resistance, right?
yeah.
So yeah.
Word wise, so you talking about Sonnet saying you turn these into puzzles too often.
Yeah.
This is such a satisfying puzzle because of that reversal.
Yeah.
Because you do what you, Phil, do all the time in life, which is reframe everything.
It's very therapist of you.
Yeah. And just very Phil of you. But like that first stanza, the what if being the sort of negative, bad thing that leads to shame and all of these things that are hurting us, turning what if into like that longing for the possibility of all things to be made new in the second half after the but in the middle. But then also the other one, I mean, there's the obvious like first line, last line, paradise, second line, second to last line, a family. But then there's also the reversal of tongues that wound and hands that steal. And you even do a parallel rhyme, hands that help and tongues that heal.
Yeah.
The next line does the same thing.
Yeah. Feasting versus tables overflowing. Yeah.
Well, it's hearts.
Yeah.
Those, well, whatever.
Yeah.
No, it's because it was playing with the idea of, the hardened hearts feasting on death
Yeah.
of what the world is.
That's my favorite line.
To tables and cups and hearts overflowing. So instead of feeding on consuming one another, it's abundance.
Yeah.
It's making me think of and I'm gonna say when, and I hope that everyone knows this feeling, but when something like deeply painful happens, or I'll think about my own life. Anytime something deeply painful has happened in my own life and my friends have gathered, like physically gathered around me, the gathering itself, like the reason for it, is so painful and gross, and then like feasting on death is a real feeling. And the gathering is lovely, and there's the moments of like, oh, we're together and I feel good, even though like what's happening outside of this space is hell. Oops, this isn't the after show. Anyway, oh no, you know what? Hell is a Christian swear. I'm sorry. Hell is a destination, a place. Oh, we gotta stop.
I might rebut that, and we can do that another day.
What I just
Do
said?
the after show.
No, hell being a place.
Me too. Sorry. We're
gonna pause.
hold on.
Join us in the after show for discussion on hell.
Anyways, does anything else I said before this make sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely. The weirdness of like gathering in pain, but like loving.
It's how like funerals sometimes or wakes can feel really good. Like my papa's funeral over the fall was really painful because there was a lot of my family carried a lot of trauma from how drawn out his death was, and then those of us who had to essentially nurse him into death, like there was a lot of pain there. But we also hadn't been together in so long as a whole family, and there were people that came that I haven't seen since I was very little, and it was just like we were laughing and crying. It was just nice. That's what this feels like. It's like a good funeral.
Well, in my head, that's the second half, right? Like that's
Yeah.
the
I don't.
healing
It's not a
and
but. It's an and.
Well, I would go with the. I like how you are framing feasting on death. That is not at all what I was thinking.
How are you?
I'm thinking of it like, okay, if we go into the imperial exploitative kind of model, the idea that like I fill my belly with your exploitation and your suffering. I get to wear this beautiful diamond because there are dead
like
children.
Absorbing my grief.
No, actually, I think that'd be the healing, right?
Yeah,
like that's the hands and the kind words and a meal provided, and you know there's pain, but there's life.
Yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to, okay, so Pride Month, right? I think we come together and remembering there's the great phrase that the first Pride was a riot, right?
It was.
Yeah. So, but that idea that, because it was a riot, that's the joke. Okay.
Yeah. Yep,
So,
I understand.
Right. So.
Look up Stonewall, if not know what is.
This needs to be like our yearly reminder.
Yeah. Just go back to last year's Pride
back and
episode.
listen to Pride.
We did a pretty good job on that one.
Yeah.
Was it last year?
It
might have been 2 years
2 years ago.
A year.
Anyways.
But the idea that it's that same kind of thing, right? Where it's the riot, the protesting is because there has been plenty, and in lots of ways, and still today, politically, culturally, where there are people that are exploited and excluded and marginalized and dehumanized in order for another group or a group that is dominant or empowered to enjoy benefits, to be the ones who get to be on top or get to have some sort of privilege or get to feel like they are the chosen ones or this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so so Pride Month is sort of the undoing of that. Or even like if you just grab the word queer,
Well,
which means a lot to me.
Even the concept of found family is not unique to the LGBTQIA community, but it is loud.
And it's what this psalm is about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the coming together in a world that is, we know these folks, when these songs are being sung, are against nations and empires and often being dominated by external cultures and forces, but they sing this song because they're coming together, because there is this belief of a blessing coming to the whole world through the people that are gathering here and being family. And then we can pull in Pentecost and we can pull all kinds of fun stuff. But yeah, Pride to me represents that. It's that coming together of all the weirdos. And we're all weirdos, but it's all the weirdos who have finally embraced their weirdo-ness in order to be one family. And bring what they have to the table in order to be
And be in a place where they're
life
not
to the
weird.
whole world.
Yeah.
With the goal that everyone comes to this thing.
Yes.
That there
there's
isn't.
no exclusion.
Yeah.
We all get to be here and be ourselves, and that
Yes.
is the whole point.
Yeah.
You're seen and
Yep.
you belong.
And that was one of the reasons I was hoping this psalm might be a good fit for Pride Month.
Yeah.
Pride does church so much better than church sometimes does.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of some clients that are already like, when I'm asking, all right, you're wrapping up, school year, whatever. What's the next hoped for thing? We are recording this in mid-May. And they're already like, it's Pride, which in Holland isn't until the end of June. So it's a month and a half out.
But Grand
Yeah, yeah.
Rapids
True.
is the weekend before, and some of us have already planned the events we're attending that whole weekend.
I've had people share their outfits with me,
Yeah.
but it's because, and the joy is not like, I'm going to go debauch myself. That's not a thing that I've ever seen
No.
happen at the Prides I've been to. But it is this whole, like, I'm going to go walk around and feel totally comfortable. I'm
And
going to
it's
go walk
going to
around
be
and not
so
worry
fun.
about my body image or that I'm expressing myself in this way that would be scary to do in other places. I get to be, as opposed to like whatever we've been trying to go after since whatever the fruit story is pointing us toward.
It is Eden.
We get to go be naked and unashamed,
Yeah. Literally, yes.
Sure.
symbolically.
And literally.
Depends on the pride you go to.
Yep.
Please look at their policies
Look at
before
the
you go.
age restrictions as well.
Do we have time for a question, or should I save it?
Yeah.
Okay. The one stanza in this piece that doesn't have as obvious a parallel in the reversal is the generations and nations, empires and economies chewing their way through the many made to be one. And that doesn't feel out of place within the context of the whole, but it does feel like it stands out in a unique way amidst the rest of it. You still have all of that like food or consumption imagery in there. But I'm curious about why generations and nations.
Yeah, that's a good question.
And then the phrase, the many made to be one, which I feel like could be read a couple different ways. And I'm curious how you,
How do you
intend
read
it.
it, Hannah?
well,
It feels like I just put words on the
I'll say a couple things, and,
Yeah.
and I want to hear about what you would say about the many made to be one because I'm curious. But I agree. It's something I would. This feels unfinished to me because I've got 4 stanzas on top and 3 on the bottom. I think I'm okay with that. That stanza feels important to me to give context to what I'm talking about because we start at the beginning with what I think is a pretty obvious point at like the Genesis 3 story, and the second stanza needs to be there too. Well, actually, I guess the first one would be like kind of the introduction, right? Genesis 1 or 2 maybe, and then Genesis 3. But then how do I get to today? Was my question.
Yeah.
And so what does that story's, what it's pointing to, how has that progressed through time to today? And that's what I was doing there. It was like, okay, so generations, right? Like time continues, the story keeps being told. Nations, empires, and economies, that it's kind of gone from even just one person doing this to another to this idea of systems and exploitation. And here we are being treated. Well, okay, now I'm getting into what I mean by the many. One, what do you think? Okay, so like the idea of being exploited on mass numbers, right? So when you think about factory work where maybe folks are being exploited, or American history, everything being built on slavery, how we've become a country, an empire of our own, is built on literal and more sneaky slavery. The many who were created, we're all created to be one, and yet these imperial type nation powers chew through these bodies as though we are not all one people, as though we're not chewing through ourselves. What were you thinking?
Well, that was one of my two options, and then the second option in my head that doesn't make as much sense was so that's like the many intended to be one.
Yeah.
But the other option in my head was like the many forced to be one.
Yeah.
That like this is kind of going back a little bit to like that pride imagery that like everyone gets to show up as their full selves, which is a unique individual.
Yours.
Like you get to be one of many.
Yeah.
And yet united.
Yeah.
So like holds another side of that, all of that imagery.
Yep. Which is where what I tried to reflect in the one people, one world. But I could have used those words again. That would have been fun. See, and this is where I get in trouble.
Multiple drafts.
But then I also needed that fourth one, the not enough, never enough, because I needed to like have that to kind of set the framing of what we live with in order to flip it. But that's why I agree that doesn't have as many reflections. It could be fun to try to. Maybe that's the fourth verse of the bottom part, which is talking about the undoing of empire and economy and revolution, but we can't say that out loud. It's the secret fourth verse.
The
I have to
silent
listen to the
fourth
song
verse.
backwards.
That's very satanic of you.
So if the rich are eating us, then we...
Oh, dear God. We're done.
I'm just reading it.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
just
right.
reading it.
So this
What
sounds
you
like an
wrote.
after-show conversation.
Yes, thank you all for listening to this episode. There's lots of ways to engage this particular psalm. You've had the short kind of translation based podcast that Phil did a week or whenever I posted it ago. You've got on the Instagram, there's a bunch of ways to interact with both the translation and the actual piece itself. We have another expression of this coming out in the coming week, so keep an eye out for that, and keep an eye out for like whatever it turns into, whether there's songs or things to come. There's all sorts of exciting things. It's
gonna be a rap.
It's gonna be a real.
It's going to be a rap.
That is what I said.
Maddie will be rapping in the
Lin-Manuel
next couple
Miranda
weeks.
style.
Maddie will be beatboxing so someone else can rap. Thanks for being our listeners.
Yeah. Thanks for being folks who tune in. If you like the show, chat about it with other people. You can find us on the socials at the username at Wayfolk Arts. And then on Patreon as well, patreon.com/wayfolkarts. If you want in on the after show at the lowest tier of patronship, you get access to that. So
Come hang out.
Yeah.
Phil, would you read it to us one more time before we go?
Of course. Paradise. Paradise. A family. Bone of bone and flesh of flesh, until innocent eyes linger on a what if. It looks good, it looks sweet, but curdles on the tongue like shame, staining eyes with hunger and fear. Generations and nations, empires and economies chewing their way through the many made to be one. Not enough, Never enough. Tongues that wound and hands that steal, hardened hearts feasting on death. But what if the blessing of love, life to the whole world, swallowed shame, made things new? Hands that help and tongues that heal, tables and cups and hearts overflowing, one people, one world. Behold, it is good. Behold, it is sweet. A family paradise.
It's chasm,
It's chasm.
not chasm.
It is chasm.
It's chasm.
Where did you hear Cosm?
You said chasm.
When?
In the episode, I've been crashing out about it for
Microcosm?
right.
That's
Oh,
not
that's-
chasm.
That means like a very small representation of a bigger
World.
thing.
Yeah, it's not.
microcosm?
It's
They're
not
not spelled the
chasm.
same either.
Yeah.
It's a different word. Cosm doesn't usually sit on its own.
It's not talking about a small chasm.
You could. You could talk about a microcosm.